Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review is brought to you in part by Rogers Hobby Center in Saginaw, Michigan, where the fun begins. Well, happy Independence Day. Now, this is 2020, and that was impressive, but not nearly as impressive as the courage shown by the men and women and children that started America and have fought for 244 years to preserve it. Now, this review covers what I call the Salute to Freedom Garage Kit. I found this on eBay from an overseas seller, and it's identified only as Garage Kit number GK-R254. Now, garage kits are typically resin models that small independent manufacturers make and sell on their own, or through limited marketing outlets. And because of this, you won't find reviews like this on the big three review sites here, YouTube, because they can't sell you one. So with that in mind, here's our salutatorian paying tribute to all the brave souls that have sacrificed and built this country from the ground up. This is as close as we'll get to box art for the kit because, well, it doesn't come in a box. But they use what I think are computer colorized images here, even maybe computer generated images, to illustrate what the model would look like when it was finished. Packaging techniques vary widely, but this is how I received this garage kit. And some may come in a box, some may come in a poly bag like this. There were no instructions, but you know, construction is so simplistic that you really shouldn't need any anyway. After opening the package, here are the contents. There are 6 pieces to 2 of the main figures, and it was pretty clean. There are going to be attachment points that need to be cleaned up, and we'll talk more about that. Now, resin parts are softer than styrene. You'll find they sand very easily, or you can even use just a hobby knife to scrape some of the pieces off from any of the attachment points and lightly sand off any of the attachment points or flash that may be involved. And we're going to assemble the bomb first, and that really involves putting the few pieces of that together, the tail piece along with the fins. Just make sure that the alignment is good. And as you see here, we're going to use a little bit of, I use Tamiya putty to smooth some of the joints where the pieces go together, and then that'll get smoothed off with a little fine sandpaper as well. And now we can assemble the other figure, and that will be mounted on a rod there so that we can work on her once she's put together. But the parts must be glued with either epoxy glue or CA glue, super glue, because it will not respond to styrene cement. So go ahead and put the torso together along with the head and the legs and arms. And then we used a little Vallejo perfect our plastic putty here around the joints, and those will all be smoothed out so that it looks like a nice smooth transition between pieces. Also, test fit the model onto the bomb that is the prop there, to make sure that the legs will contact that in the glue points provided. While the other figure is setting up, we'll continue work on this portion, and that was cleaned up just to smooth all the putty, make sure, and then we're going to give it some primer. And I used German dark yellow for the base color after through the airbrush to give it a nice thin and even coat all the way around the unit. Well, we've got the airbrush set up with the Vallejo German dark yellow paint. We're going to also finish cleaning up our model after a light coat of primer, and then spray that all the way around using a light about 10-pound pressure to make sure that we don't lose any of the detail here, which is pretty finely done, nicely engraved, and obviously somebody used a good basic mock-up, or I should say scratch built master for this model. It's nice and clean. So go ahead and finish that base coat and let that dry. The first portion of the finish coat here was to paint the bomb with a coat of Vallejo Model Air Camo Green and a couple of good light coats, and then also we're going to paint the teeth and the eyes there. Now they are embossed on the body of the figure here, so you're really just painting the raised areas. I started, of course, with the center of the teeth, the red portion, then the black, and then painted the white to work that magic. And we're always going to have some touch-up, so don't be surprised with the black, white, and red that you'll need to go back over that a couple times to get it just right. You'll find that you need to use various sizes of brushes for the different features on your model. I used 4 on just the teeth here, and then I gave the entire unit where all of the rivets and seams were some highlighting there with Vallejo grease and oil staining, on all the rivets and seams, and that was thin with some thinner, and then it was kind of just pin washed around it so that it brought out all of those details. And for a simple but effective base, I just bought a pre-cut base from Hobby Lobby. You can find those in the wood section there, and then I coated that after some masking with some dark mud paste from Vallejo and sprinkled it with some Woodland Scenics green and blended turf. I've used a 1/4 inch acrylic rod to mount the bomb and, of course, later on the figures, and we'll remove the wooden dowel that was the prop for the other figure, and then she'll be placed right on the bomb directly. But the clear acrylic will provide some transparency, but we'll be covering that up with some Fiberfill as well, so you'll hardly even notice it. Now the other figure will start to take shape, and we'll put some color coats on there. I chose some Model Air skin tone for the base for the skin, and also some scale color pink flesh for shadowing that. Model color field blue was used on the eyes, and some vermilion red for the lipstick and the nail polish. There's some black, it's a black paint for the garter belt, the nylon top, and the shoes. Now, on a bit more here, we're going to use some Panzer Aces light rust for the hair, and a Model Air Ferrari red for the undergarments. And again, we'll be using a variety of brush sizes depending on the size of the features for your figure. And now that the base coat is on, the hat and the shirt are painted with some MC khaki, and the belt is brown leather. The PAs there, the buckle and the buttons, are PA's oily steel color, and then the lieutenant bars and wings are PA's brass. Now the sleeve patch is Model Air azure, gold, and white colors, and the next step then is to apply a coat of Pledge Floor Care product, thin with 50-50, a mix there with water through your airbrush, and then we'll start doing some of the detailing after that's nicely dry. Now we'll apply some detailing with some scale color umber black and some Vallejo burnt siennas and flesh washes to the various areas to give it, some emphasis, and some touch-up will be needed before you dry brush more details. Now to emphasize the hat and the jacket, I dry brushed the highlights with some Model Air's light brown, and her hair with some Model Air's wood. And next she'll be coated with a flat coat, and I use AK Interactive's Ultra Varnish Matte for that purpose. We'll let all the colors set and dry here before we move on, in case there's any handling that might need to be done. But as you can see, the acrylic rod is still uncovered, and we'll work on that next. You can buy some Fiberfill. It basically was designed for things like pillows and jackets, etc., but it worked great for clouds and smoke and models. So for this diorama, we're going to wrap some tightly around the acrylic first to kind of camouflage that, and then we're just going to wind some out around it to give it a fluffy appearance of a cloud, which is what I was after here. And of course the outside of the base now has been stained with a little oil, wood oil base coat for a finishing touch. And once you get your Fiberfill placed and perked the way you like it, then your model is done. Well, we hope you like this step-by-step model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the icon on the lower right of any of the reviews, or you can find us on Facebook or our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.